The Lost Treasure of Eldoria. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold. Bianca adjusted her leather gloves, gripping the worn edges of an ancient map. Michael stood beside her, his eyes scanning the dense jungle ahead. They had traveled across continents, decoding cryptic symbols, evading dangerous rivals, and now they were finally here, deep in the heart of the Amazon, on the verge of discovering the legendary Lost Treasure of Eldoria. The legend spoke of an ancient civilization that thrived centuries ago, its riches hidden away from the greed of conquerors. The treasure was said to be protected by deadly traps, intricate puzzles, and the unforgiving nature of the jungle itself. Many had searched for it, but none had returned. "Are you sure this is the place?" Michael asked, wiping the sweat from his brow. Bianca studied the map, tracing the inked lines with her fingers. "The symbols match the ones we found in the ruins. This has to be it." A sudden rustling in the foliage made them both freeze. Michael instinctively reached for his machete while Bianca tightened her grip on the map. A second later, a dart whizzed past them, lodging into a tree trunk with a dull thunk. "Move," Bianca shouted, diving behind a fallen log. Michael followed, rolling into the underbrush just as another dart shot past him. From the shadows, figures emerged, masked men, their bodies painted with war markings. The local tribes had been rumored to guard the treasure's location, and now those rumors were proving true. "They're not going to let us just walk in," Michael muttered. "Then we don't give them a choice," Bianca shot back, grabbing a smoke grenade from her pack. She pulled the pin and tossed it toward their attackers. The jungle erupted into chaos as the thick smoke spread. Michael took the opportunity to dash forward, grabbing Bianca's wrist as they sprinted deeper into the ruins. The Temple of Eldoria. They ran until their lungs burned, finally reaching the base of an ancient stone structure. The temple loomed before them, covered in vines, its carvings depicting scenes of warriors, gods, and offerings. "This is it," Bianca whispered. Michael exhaled, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't believe we made it." Bianca pulled out her flashlight and aimed it at the carvings. "We need to find the entrance." As if on cue, the ground beneath them trembled. A section of the temple wall began to shift, revealing a dark passageway. Michael glanced at her. "Did you do that?" Bianca smirked. "Not on purpose." They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous chamber. The air was thick with dust, and the flickering torchlight revealed a series of hieroglyphs covering the walls. "Looks like a puzzle," Bianca said, studying the symbols. Michael frowned. "Of course it's a puzzle. It's never just open the door and take the gold." Bianca ran her fingers over the engravings. These look like elements: water, fire, earth, air. Michael turned, noticing 4 stone pedestals, each with a different emblem. "Maybe we need to activate them in a certain order." Bianca nodded, scanning the hieroglyphs. "There's a sequence here. It says the cycle of life begins with water, is fueled by fire, sustained by earth, and carried by air." Michael moved quickly, pressing the water pedestal first, then fire, earth, and finally air. The room rumbled, dust falling from the ceiling as a hidden door creaked open. "I can't believe that worked," he muttered. "Never doubt ancient wisdom," Bianca grinned, stepping inside. The gauntlet of traps, the corridor beyond was lined with statues, warriors with spears, jaguar heads with open mouths, and skeletal figures holding weapons. The sight alone was enough to send chills down their spines. "Watch your step," Bianca warned. Michael took one cautious step forward, and the floor gave way. Bianca lunged, grabbing his arm just in time. Below, a pit of razor-sharp spikes waited to impale anything unfortunate enough to fall. "You okay?" she asked, her heart pounding. "Yeah," Michael groaned, pulling himself up. "Just a little closer to death than I'd like." They continued forward, dodging swinging blades, leaping over collapsing floors, and barely avoiding poisoned darts that shot from the walls. Every step felt like a gamble between life and death. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a massive stone door. In its center was a circular indentation. Bianca pulled the golden medallion from her pocket, the same one they had recovered from a ruined monastery weeks ago. She placed it into the indentation, and with a deep click, the door slowly groaned open. Inside, the chamber sparkled with golden light. Piles of treasure lay before them: gold coins, gemstone-encrusted artifacts, and ancient scrolls detailing lost histories. We found it, Michael breathed. Bianca let out a breathless laugh. We actually found it. But their celebration was short-lived. From behind them, the sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber. They turned just in time to see a familiar face stepping into the light. Victor Kane. Dressed in black, with a smirk that sent a chill down Bianca's spine, Kane was a ruthless treasure hunter who had been chasing them for months. Well, well, he drawled. I knew if I followed you too long enough, you'd lead me right to the prize. Michael clenched his fists. Should have figured you weren't far behind. Kane's men emerged from the shadows, guns trained on them. Bianca's mind raced. They were trapped, outnumbered, and outgunned. We could make a deal, Kane mused. Give me the medallion, and I might let you leave with your lives. Bianca's hand slowly reached for her belt where she had tucked away a single flash grenade. Michael caught her movement and nodded subtly. She grinned at Kane. You know what, Victor? You talk too much. With that, she hurled the grenade. The explosion of blinding light sent Kane and his men stumbling back, giving Michael and Bianca the opening they needed. Grabbing the nearest satchel of treasure, they sprinted toward the exit. The temple trembled violently, triggered by the explosion or the disturbance of the treasure, they weren't sure. But one thing was clear. The entire structure was collapsing. Stones tumbled from above as they raced through the tunnels, dodging falling debris. The ground beneath them cracked, opening into deep chasms. Michael grabbed Bianca's hand, pulling her over a crumbling bridge just as the last support gave way. Finally, they burst out into the open air, just as the temple caved in behind them. Catching their breath, Bianca looked at the satchel in her hands. Inside lay a single golden artifact, proof that they had made it. Michael grinned. That was fun, Bianca laughed. You have a twisted idea of fun. As the dust settled and the jungle returned to silence, they exchanged a knowing glance. The adventure wasn't over. It was only just beginning.
The Mysterious Canyon, a tale of survival and secrets. The blazing sun hung high over the desolate landscape, casting long shadows over jagged rocks and dry earth. The desert stretched endlessly, whispering tales of ancient secrets buried beneath layers of dust and stone. Linda wiped the sweat from her brow, her piercing green eyes scanning the horizon with determination. She had always been drawn to the unknown, to places that whispered promises of mystery and adventure. And today, that call had led her here, to the edge of a canyon that didn't exist on any map. Peter adjusted his backpack, the weight of their supplies pressing down on his shoulders. His rugged features were hardened by years of outdoor expeditions, but nothing he had experienced before compared to the eerie allure of this place. The canyon yawned before them, its depths shrouded in shadows, its walls carved with strange markings that defied explanation. Are you sure about this, Linda? Peter's voice was a low rumble, tinged with both excitement and caution. Linda flashed a daring smile. When have I ever been unsure about an adventure? With that, they descended into the unknown. The narrow path twisted and turned, forcing them to squeeze through crevices barely wide enough to accommodate their bodies. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the outside world fading into an oppressive silence. As they ventured deeper, the canyon walls seemed to close in, adorned with ancient petroglyphs that depicted scenes of strange rituals and creatures unlike anything they'd ever seen. Hours passed, marked only by the dwindling light and the growing sense of unease that settled over them. Suddenly, Linda stumbled upon something extraordinary, an entrance carved into the rock, hidden behind a cascade of ivy. Without hesitation, she pushed the foliage aside and stepped through, Peter close behind. They found themselves in a vast underground chamber, illuminated by beams of sunlight piercing through cracks in the ceiling. The walls shimmered with mineral deposits, and in the center of the room stood a colossal stone structure, resembling an ancient altar. Strange artifacts lay scattered around, remnants of a civilization lost to time. Peter approached the altar, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings. This is incredible. But what is it? Before Linda could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A deep, guttural roar echoed through the chamber, and shadows shifted unnaturally along the walls. They weren't alone. Out of the darkness emerged creatures unlike any they had ever seen, lithe, with elongated limbs and glowing eyes that reflected an otherworldly intelligence. The creatures moved with terrifying speed, surrounding them in an instant. Adrenaline surged through Linda's veins. She grabbed Peter's hand, pulling him toward a narrow passage on the other side of the chamber. They sprinted through the dark, their footsteps echoing as the creatures pursued them relentlessly. The passage led to a labyrinth of tunnels, each turn a desperate gamble for survival. They navigated by instinct, driven by sheer will and the primal urge to escape. The creatures were relentless, their screeches reverberating through the stone corridors. After what felt like an eternity, they burst into an open cavern. A river of luminescent water flowed through it, casting an eerie glow that revealed yet more ancient structures, bridges, statues, and towering obelisks inscribed with symbols that seemed to pulse with life. "We have to keep moving," Peter shouted, dragging Linda toward a narrow bridge that spanned the river. As they crossed, the creatures closed in. Peter fought them off with a makeshift torch, the flames casting monstrous shadows on the cavern walls. Linda spotted an ancient lever embedded in one of the obelisks. Without thinking, she pulled it. The ground shook violently. The bridge collapsed, taking the creatures with it into the churning waters below. Linda and Peter barely managed to cling to the edge, pulling themselves to safety as the cavern settled into an uneasy silence. Breathing heavily, they realized they had survived, but the canyon had not yet revealed all its secrets. The lever had triggered something. A hidden passage slowly opened before them, its depths promising more mysteries and dangers. Peter looked at Linda, his eyes filled with both fear and exhilaration. "Ready for the next part of the adventure?" Linda smiled, her spirit unbroken. "Always." And with that, they stepped into the darkness, unaware that their greatest challenge was still to come. The canyon was alive, and it had only just begun to play its hand.